Pizza's hot on the table, can't wait to dive in. Chat about the Bills, we're hoping for the win. Pepperoni dreams and touchdowns in our mind. With each cheesy bite, our spirits get aligned. Let's go Bills, bring the flow to our place. Hot slices, high fives, we're feeling great. Cheese pulls like Hail Marys, reaching for the goal. Bills Mafia munching with a hungry soul.
Sean, how you doing today?
Kyle, I'm doing great, buddy. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Second day of spring. Folks, I'm recovering from a little bit of laryngitis, so just be patient with us.
He came off the bench, but he was fired up, ready to go, and he fired right through.
Brought in the right-hander.
Bring in, get me Vaughn. Bring me Vaughn.
Yeah, that's right. Wild thing. Sean, today is a interesting day or fun day or whatever.
Yeah.
We are going to interview Charlie from the London Bales Backers.
From Manchester, London, Manchester, England, the man, the myth, the legend, the host of Bills from Afar.
That's right. And you want to listen to them on Spotify, anywhere else but iTunes. He's having a technical issue with uploading between iTunes because some company apparently bought him. So
Right. Co-owner of the London Bills Backers, and I have to say, a draft guru.
Yes, he knows his stuff.
Yes. On this episode, you'll hear a couple of things, recapping the season from Charlie, getting his perspective on our free agencies, and the deep dive that was the Buffalo Bills' possible, fingers crossed, 2025 selections per Charlie. Kyle, you think he did his homework? That guy sounded...
He did. He spent some time watching the mock drafts and definitely using a computer.
If you're interested going forward, who the Bills might select, what would be good fits, this episode's definitely going to be for you.
Yeah, so folks, enjoy. It's about an hour discussion with Charlie on a Sunday morning Buffalo time and 1-ish to 2 o'clock-ish London time. We did talk to Charlie last year in our Bills Backers interview series, and it was nice to revisit with Charlie. And I just wish my voice sounded a little bit better. But he's our first one of the series. We're going to start hitting up all the presidents that we spoke to last year and then hopefully work into some new ones.
Sounds great.
Yeah. So, everyone, here you go. And enjoy Charlie.
Thanks, Charlie.
All right, have a good one. Pink Floyd, that's true. See how this thing works.
Hey, Carl.
Hey, Charlie, how you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. Welcome back. Welcome back.
Oh, good to be back. Good to be back. It's been a while, huh?
Yes.
How you doing, Charlie? How is life in England treating you?
Yeah, it's pretty good, thank you. Hanging in there, hanging in there.
I gotcha.
So, yeah, all good. All good. Missing live football, but buried into draft prospects to, keep me occupied. At least till the end of April.
Hey, my soccer son wanted me to tell you that Manchester City would be nothing without Rodri.
Yeah, well, that's definitely true. We've been out all season, and we've been terrible. So we're just reveling the fact we're still better than Man United, so even without Rodri.
Oh, man.
But he's right.
All right, well, Charlie, let's get into this. It's breakfast time here, and it's lunchtime there. I appreciate taking up the middle of your Sunday. But, hey, what did you well, first off, folks, if you're like me in a complete tool bag and you only followed Charlie's podcast on iTunes, you would have noticed, like I did, that it seemed like he stopped putting out podcasts, which is the Bills from Afar. So Charlie explained to me the other day that, why don't you explain what happened with iTunes?
Yeah, we had some issues. So we were using a different podcast application that was there and acquired by Spotify. And when it got moved, iTunes stopped picking it up. And I do have a list of very complicated instructions to try and get it backlisted on iTunes, but something I need to fix in the off season. But yeah, we're still available on Spotify and other places. Bills from Afar, you'll still find us. But yeah, I had some various technical issues with iTunes that was a struggle, because the problem actually was between Spotify and iTunes. So there's only so much stuff I could fix. But yeah, it should be back hopefully very soon.
Excellent. Yeah, because Sean, I would listen to it and then it would just like stop, and I'm like, is something wrong with my phone?
Right.
And
Charlie, give us a plug. What's the name of the podcast?
Bills from afar.
Bills from afar.
Yes.
Outstanding.
Yeah,
how
there
long?
you go.
Real quick, how long have you been podcasting for?
Oh man, it must be like getting on for 3-4 years now.
Okay.
So we started off season, I think, 3 years ago. It was just kind of towards the end of the pandemic. I was chatting with my buddy Tim, who's my co-host, and we would chat on Twitter all the time about Bills, and we got invited on someone else's podcast, and they said, "Hey, you guys, you should really do something yourselves." And so we said, "Well, let's try it." And we've been doing it pretty much weekly ever since. We still really enjoy it. It's an opportunity to talk Bills and be on this side of the Atlantic. That's not necessarily something I can do very often. So yeah, we really love it. And actually, this season, draft season, is kind of our DNA. We're both big draft guys. So
excellent.
Deep into scouting players, and there'll be plenty of draft pods coming up in the next few weeks.
Well, and that's what Kyle tells me. He tells me you have been diving deep into the prospects the Bills can draft. They have 10 picks, I believe, in the 2025 draft. Let's get into it.
No. Hold on. Let's do a recap we'll do a quick recap. Last time that we talked to him.
Okay.
Charlie, what did you think of last season overall? You can pick a few highlights or lowlights, and then how many Bills games did you make it to?
So I made it to 2. I saw the Bills play in Buffalo against the Titans, which was great.
Oh, good game.
So we absolutely crushed them, 34-10. And then the week before that, I was in New Jersey watching them play the Jets, and that was a very different experience. So I was on my own. I was surrounded by Jets fans. It was freezing cold. I don't think I've ever been so cold in my entire life. I'm in the third tier of MetLife. It's like an absolute, I don't know, cyclone, home for cyclones or something. It was so cold. I'm getting a dog's abuse the entire game from the Jets fans that are around me. I mean, compared to a soccer crowd, it was pretty tame, but for an NFL crowd, it was lively. And then to be able to walk out of that stadium with a 3-point win was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not in a hurry to go back to MetLife. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. Right.
I'm pretty sure the Jets aren't ready to see Buffalo with QB question mark coming to
yeah.
That franchise is in trouble.
In terms of the season overall, I mean, look, anytime you make it to the championship game, you got to feel like it was pretty solid. I think the frustrating thing is that I think, if everybody's healthy, we're better than Kansas City, and we should have won that game.
Absolutely.
The refs didn't do us any favors, but I don't think the Bills played anything like their potential, and those injuries in the secondary really killed us. I think KC put more points on us than they had put on anybody all season. That just can't happen, right? So that was a super frustrating thing. But then having watched the Super Bowl, I was like, you know what? I don't know if we would have beaten the Eagles in that mood.
Right. Oh my God.
I agree.
I don't know about you guys, but having watched us lose 4 Super Bowls in my life, getting to Super Bowl, incredible. But the thought of losing a Super Bowl, oh my goodness,
100%, Charlie.
So hold on.
100%.
So you're saying you would not want to see them get in and lose, but rather not get there?
I would rather they went in with a really great chance of winning. You can't guarantee it, right? It's just simple. But here in the dance, you got a chance, right? But the thought of us getting crushed by the Eagles would have killed me, man. That would absolutely killed me. So on balance, I would just about take not going than going and getting crushed.
I have a really good hypothetical I came up with the other day. Would you sign up for
here we go.
a guaranteed Super Bowl win?
Yes.
But Josh Allen has to leave the Bills and play with New England for the rest of his career? Or any other hated franchise?
Oh man, that's an incredible question. You know what? I'm gonna say yes. One before we die, right?
Yes.
We just want one, so I'll say yes. That's what we're about. That's what we want to be. Of course, if Josh Allen spends the rest of his career with us, then does he have a chance to win another Super Bowl? That's the other part of the question, right? Which you'd like to think he would, but it's just so hard to win.
Do you think?
I'll go for yes. I want a Super Bowl.
Okay. Do you think that he'll retire a Buffalo Bill?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
he's Buffalo through and through, isn't he? I mean, he loves it in Western New York. I think he gets treated really well. Everybody loves him.
Gets paid really well, too.
He paid really well. Hey, don't forget about the $5 million discount he gave us.
Right.
But do you think that his Hollywood wife is going to start chipping away at him?
You know, I don't.
Okay.
I don't. I mean, she's not that kind of out there front and center kind of woman, I don't think. I don't think she's somebody who's seeking a massive amount of limelight. She feels like she goes pretty under the radar.
Yeah.
And when I've seen interviews with her and stuff, she seems, I think, pretty humble. I don't think she's that archetypal Hollywood starlet, you know. That's not the impression I get. I've actually followed her career quite a bit, you know, since I'm a big movie guy, so when she did True Grit, I was super impressed with her. And I don't know. I think she goes under the radar. I think she's a pretty humble person. So, no, I don't think so.
We're really good at wooing people. We're the Buffalo fan base, Western New York is really good at wooing. So we're gonna woo her. We're gonna win her over. Even if there isn't, she's gonna fall in love with Buffalo, just like Josh. But I want to stick real quick.
Exactly.
I want to stick with Josh for just a second. There was a little bit of anxiety around these parts. On whether he would or would not win the MVP. Was there ever a doubt in your mind that Josh Allen would not win the MVP this season?
Oh, for sure. I didn't expect him to win it. I thought they'd give it to Lamar. I mean, I thought that would have been wrong, but I thought they were going to give it to Lamar. Just the history of, every time you get your first team All-Pro selection, typically wins the MVP.
Right.
I thought Josh was the MVP. That was my personal opinion. I think that if you just simply look at the talent on Baltimore's roster and compare that to the Bills,
right.
You know, Lamar simply just has more help. You know, he has a Derrick Henry. he has a Flowers. I mean, I don't think we have got two players that can compare with those two guys. So, to my mind, I mean, it depends on how you define MVP. But if you want MVP to the team, then it's Josh Allen, no question. He's asked to do more than any other quarterback. And I thought he had an outstanding season. I thought his decision making was great. I thought his use of his legs, when to really pull out the superhero cape, was excellent. I don't know. I thought he played really, really well, and I think he maximized the talent around him. So yeah, to me it was clear that he was the MVP, but I did not think he would get it. I stayed up watching it and was really happily surprised, and I'm very pleased for him. You know, he deserved it.
Do you think that I'm skipping around a little bit? Do you think that the Bills are a number 1A, 1B caliber wide receiver away from really going the distance? Or is it all defense?
Question.
Or do you think it's all defensive struggles?
And are we transitioning to?
No, I want. Great question.
Hold on.
You know, I've been looking at draft options and looking at what might be available to us. I don't necessarily think we need an out-and-out 1A wide receiver, but we definitely need a field stretcher, and ideally somebody who has the traits that could develop into a high-end X receiver at some point in their career. You know, Diggs was drafted in the 5th round from Maryland.
Yeah.
So he didn't come into the league what he became, and I don't think we have to necessarily go get a guy really early. But there are a couple of guys that I like. I think if there's a couple of guys, if they're there at 30, I'll be like, we should take him. But honestly, I think the defense has to be improved, especially the defensive line. I mean, actually, there's holes all over this defense, apart from linebacker. I mean, we still need an edge rusher. I mean, Joey Bosa contract is 1 year, so we haven't solved that problem. We need a one tech. We need a cornerback too. I'm not entirely happy with our safeties. I think what's interesting is that Brandon Beane came out after the season, so we're missing difference makers, and if you look at the defensive side of the ball, there just isn't enough of those. If we can sort that line out, even just make a modest improvement to it, that's going to give us more turnover opportunities. That's going to give Josh more time with the ball in his hands, and Josh has shown that he can maximize the value out of this wide receiver core. So, in answer to your question, no, I don't think we're that away. I mean, was this the best scoring offense from the Bills under this regime? 30 points per game. Oh, problem wasn't on offense.
Okay.
Problem was on defense.
Yeah. Sean, what do you think of that hypothetical about Josh Allen? Guaranteed Super Bowl, but he's got to go play or retire somewhere else.
as a fan of multiple sports, you realize just what a championship means.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Nope. Wasn't going to bring it up at all. But like when your franchise, whether it's soccer, football, hockey, basketball, wins a championship, that year is bookmarked in your brain for the rest of your life.
Sure.
That's just what the impact is. And I would also lean Charlie's way. Yeah.
All right.
Give me. I want a guarantee, because I told you, Charlie. I kind of agreed with you. I get beaten up over here in Buffalo, but I can't stomach a 5th Super Bowl loss. So I'm with you in terms of that. I almost need it on a silver platter with a silver spoon, mentally to survive. That's just where I am with it. So I'm okay with trading Josh, who I love as a human being. I love everything about that man. But banners fly forever.
Yeah, you raised a great point, and I think we talked about this on the last time I came on. So I'm a Man City fan since I was a kid, and we had I was born in 1977, and in 1976 they won a trophy, and then they didn't win another trophy for like 30 years.
Right. So
I basically lived most of my life without seeing them win anything, and that first Premier League title, I'll never forget that. That'll be a feeling that I have on my deathbed. Now, of course, Man City have gone on and won many more since then, and it sort of dilutes it a little bit. But that first one, nothing like it. And for Buffalo, to me, it's even more extreme, right? Because we got there so many times and fallen just short. I think the feeling of that one win will be something everybody remembers till the day they die, and it's just special. There's no way to describe it any other way.
Yeah. Hey, what did you think of coaching overall this year? Do you think that Sean McDermott was a little cleaner in his decision making this year? I did not see the draw penalty to waste a timeout to kick a punt. So
right. I mean, no one's perfect, and I think when we're focused on Sean McDermott, we're not watching every other coach, and you look at all the mistakes that other coaches make. I think on balance, I felt that I liked his aggression on 4th downs way more.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I thought that was a big improvement. I think that we had some serious special teams mistakes, which I think you have to put down at least partially down to McDermott. It's interesting now that they've gone for a guy who's got a lot more experience on special teams than Matty Smiley. So I think that's a little bit on McDermott. But actually, I thought for the first year in a few, I thought he actually improved his decision making. And it's funny. The key thing for me is I'm not expecting a coach not to make mistakes, but I am expecting to learn from them.
Oh yeah.
And the fact he replaced Ken Dorsey and brought in Joe Brady, I think we have to give him credit for recognizing that was not working and finding something that worked better. So I think overall, I'm actually pretty comfortable with Sean at the moment. He's not perfect. No one is. Nobody kind of puts Andy Reid's every decision under a microscope, but he doesn't get everything right. The thing about Sean is he's not the creative offensive mind that you have in LA and in Sean McVay or Andy Reid. So I think there's always this sort of caution about, well, can he get us over the hump? But if you're not the offensive mind, put someone who is in charge of the offense, and he found Joe Brady and was scoring 30 plus points a game. I mean, I can't criticize him for that. I think that he's reacted in the right way. To me now, he needs to fix the defense, which is supposedly his strength. So a lot of work to be done on that side of the ball.
Okay. Now, back to earlier, we were talking about how you didn't think that we were a one wide receiver away from really taking this to the promised land. I also agree. Watching the Super Bowl, the Eagles put on a show of why a defensive line can win you a game. Like, that was incredible, the pressure. And I believe, too, like you were saying, if you fix that front four, you also take pressure off your linebackers, your corners, and your safeties that are
right
a little suspect at times when you have a weak front four.
Yep.
So, yeah, I would love to see more.
The biggest job for me in the draft is fix that defensive line.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I didn't watch the previous Super Bowl because I kind of I didn't want the 49ers to win. I didn't want the KC to win. I just had no interest in it. But I watched this one. I rooted hard for the Eagles. But watching Mahomes run for his life was one of the most entertaining things I've seen in ages.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I was absolutely reveling in it. And it just goes to show like how you can wreck a game. And like you say, we don't have the deepest secondary.
Right.
If we can take a little bit of pressure off them, then we should. And we haven't found this solution at edge for what? I mean, how long has it been since we've had a top level edge rusher? I'm actually struggling to think.
Well, was it Bruce Smith, and then was it Aaron Schobel?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can make an argument. Von Miller was that edge rusher, but his season got kind of cut short.
Mario Williams,
right?
Lorenzo Alexander, Jerry Hughes. I mean, we're talking B-level names here.
Yeah, they tried. Right. They tried drafting Rousseau.
Von Miller was great for 5 minutes. We all watched that kickoff game against the Rams, and he looked phenomenal, and we were like, oh yeah, we solved the problem. But he's an older player. And the problem the Bills have is we're always drafting in the 30s or the high 20s, and we're not going to get access to the very best edge rushers that are out there through the draft. And seemingly, Myles Garrett likes to pretend that he wants to leave just as a negotiating tactic.
What a dick.
Well, we are. Yeah.
So, all right, perfect segue. Well, let's get into the free agency moves that they've made so far, and we'll get into the draft.
Sounds good.
Well, what do you think? I like the Bosa move. I mean, he's a name. You're not really locked into him for much. I mean, if it doesn't work out, I mean, you spent more on less so far, right?
Right. It's no risk, high reward, isn't it?
Yes.
If he pays off, then we've got a hell of a deal. If he doesn't, then we still have a gap there. I think that, he's still a solid player. I don't think he's necessarily at his peak, but he's still a very, very productive player. And I think if he can be healthy, I don't think he was much last year, then we've got a bargain. But I think we can't count on it. I think that's the issue, which means we have to draft an edge, in my opinion, in this upcoming draft to complement that, and also to cover the risk of him potentially spending a little time on the sidelines.
Do you think?
But I like the pick. Yeah.
Do you think that he'll be a great mentor for Epinesa if he sticks around, and Rousseau?
I'd hope so, but I mean, that's what I guess we were hoping from Von Miller as well. I mean, I'm fine with Greg Rousseau. I mean, I don't think we're paying him top tier money. It's really hard to find great edge rushers, right? And I think Greg Rousseau is a good edge rusher too, but you want the game wrecker on the opposite. I actually think that, we've got two guys in Greg Rousseau and Ed Oliver who are perfectly solid, but they need other talent around them.
Right.
If we, and we saw how good Ed Oliver was when he had Daquan Jones at his full performance level 2 seasons ago. We got way more out of Ed Oliver. That's how we get more out of Greg and Ed is to find an edge on the other side that can complement what Greg Rousseau is doing. And we fix that one tech position. And then I think everybody looks better, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if AJ Epinesa is going to be here beyond this next year. If you look at the money we're paying him and the production we're getting, they might just attract another guy, especially if they decide they want to trade for, a high-end edge rusher at some point. But yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, he's only going to be there 1 year. It certainly can't do any harm.
Right.
There's always someone they sign in the last couple of years where you didn't really know. We all know who Bosa is, but there's always someone they sign in the Bean era where this guy comes out of nowhere. I know he wasn't signed, but he was traded for. Like Rasul Douglas is a guy who you're like, who's that guy? And then you're like, oh my God, he's amazing. Anybody that the Bills signed in the free agency give you that sort of vibe that this guy could really be someone to look out for, or you're kind of excited, not because he's going to be a Pro Bowl player, but he's going to get his name recognized around here.
Yes, I think there's two that I think are underrated, under the radar signings, which I think we'll get good value out of. One is Josh Palmer. I think his separation ability is really going to give us what we didn't have from Amari Cooper, who I think has probably just gone over the edge in terms of his abilities and age. I think no one's not really been watching much of Josh Palmer, but if you watch his film, you watch how he gets separation. He's that guy that we need to get
Oh,
get away
absolutely.
from man coverage.
We had zero
especially
separation.
Go ahead.
We had zero separation. Sorry to interrupt.
Right, yeah, exactly. And Josh still was putting up 30 points, right, with zero separation. So you add a field stretcher, perhaps in the draft, somebody who's got sort of 4.3 speed or something, then I think that opens up space for the underneath guys we have and the tight ends. So I think Josh Palmer is really an underrated signing, and I think that he might not necessarily put up massive numbers, but I think in the collective, we're going to get even more production out of that offense. But I also think Michael Hoyt's an interesting one. I mean, this suspension is super frustrating, but he's a 3-year deal. And I think he's one of these people that can just cause problems. He's a big upgrade over someone like Dwayne Smoot, in my opinion.
Oh, sure.
And I think if we've got Greg Rousseau on one side, we've got a healthy Joey Bosa on the other side, and we're rotating in Michael Hoyt and AJ Epinesa, I feel way better about that.
Right.
That combination of those first four than I did what we had last year, which was, Von Miller kind of, he was productive enough, but you can tell he's just not the guy that he was.
Right.
Especially if we can get a little bit more out of Solomon and maybe draft another edge, suddenly I start feeling a lot better about that position group. But I think Hoyt's a really interesting position because he can play inside, I think he can play outside. He's just a disruptive presence. And I think he's one of those sort of high engine guys who's going to be good in the dressing room. He comes across really well, and he's healthy, So I think he's somebody who there's upside to come from. Maybe one other one, which is more of a quiet one, but I feel quite high on is Derek Forrest. I'm not super comfortable with the two safeties that we have. I like them individually, but I don't know if they're a good combination. But I think Derek Forrest has got the potential to maybe play a little deep safety, the free safety. I think he might actually be the best free safety out of the three of them. Just take a look out for him, because I think he could be a really worthwhile addition. And having him as our safety 3, I think that's an upgrade from my perspective, certainly above Damar Hamlin.
Yeah, I think they're taking a fly on him. Hopefully he takes a step. He's a young guy, 25 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still...
And look at what Bean's done with safeties in the past, right? Yeah. I think they have an eye for them.
Yeah, but if this guy can take it to the next level, it'll be another Bean steal. It'll be fantastic.
Completely agree. And we're paying that minimum money, pretty much.
Absolutely.
So, he basically got pushed out in Washington because of a scheme change. So if you look at what he was doing before that, he was definitely on the upswing. So I'm excited about him. I think he could be a useful addition. I'd still love a difference maker at safety, but I'm not sure that's going to happen.
Okay.
What do you think of defensive tackle Larry Ogunjobi?
I'm a little underwhelmed. I mean, I guess he's the hedge in case Dwayne Carter doesn't take a step forward. He's on a 1-year contract and he's going to miss 6 games of that, so that's pretty disappointing.
Well, let me ask you this: Are these guys worth the 6-game suspensions?
I think in Michael Hoyt's perspective, yes, I think so. Okay. I think you can, and I thought he spoke very well about the situation and how it came about. In Larry Ogunjobi's position, I just don't know. My fear is he's just stepped over that hill, and his age might be catching up with him. He's a flashy player, I guess he spells it all over, but he's not getting me excited because basically he's backup. He's going to be probably second or third in that rotation anyway. My problem in the defensive line is there's one tech. He's going to play one tech. Maybe clear pass first downs only. But I want a big body, someone stood next to Ed Oliver who can soak up the double teams, who can cause havoc, and enables everybody else to fulfill their potential. So I'm not super high on Ogunjobi. I suspect he'll be a guy that flashes a little bit, comes and goes, and he's not with us in the year. Okay.
Do you think that Keon Coleman was a better pick than Xavier Worthy?
Yes, I do. And I know this is controversial, right? Like the thing about Xavier Worthy is, he's essentially a slot receiver. He gets bullied off the ball in press man coverage. We have a really good slot receiver. And his name's Khalil Shakir. Adding him, yes, you could argue he can run go routes, but he's not the tallest guy. You can disrupt him at the line. He's a good player, Xavier Worthy. I liked him coming out of the draft. I didn't want him as a Bill because I'm like, well, is that the skill set that we need? Keon Coleman obviously dropped off a little bit after his injury. No, he dropped off quite a bit, actually. Let's be clear. But his skill set is the right addition that we needed in that room, and I think he'll come good. I think he works hard. I think he's useful in those contested catches and outside positions. But you've got to look at the wide receiver room as a collective. And the fact of the matter is, we didn't have anybody with pace stretching the field. Curtis Samuel was pretty much a non-event for most of the season. If we'd have had that, well, we'd create more space for everybody else. And I think Keon Coleman would have thrived a little bit more. He's very young. And I think he has a huge amount of upside to come from. I don't think he's ever going to be a wide receiver, 1A, but could he be a 2A? Yeah, I think so. But yeah, individual players are fine, and Danny, you can compare them, but you got to look at what adds to the room, right? Who's the guy that went to LA? Oh man, there was a really good slot receiver whose name escapes me, and everyone was really high on him, and I was like, yeah, but we already have a really good slot receiver. Why do we need another one? Right. So yeah, that's how I see it anyway.
With the loss of Mac Hollins and Josh Palmer now coming in, and Curtis Samuel started to look more like himself at the end of the season, what do you foresee the Bills' wide receiver crew looking like for next year?
So I think that losing Matt Hollins is not great, but if you look at the money that the Patriots paid him, I mean, that was way more than I would have been comfortable paying him. He was a useful player. I think your hope is that Keon Coleman can make that step forward, and he can take some of those down the field, contested catch options. I'm excited about Palm. I think he's going to be a big upgrade over what we saw out of Amari Cooper. I mean, Amari Cooper, I think, obviously has had a great career in the NFL, but I think you can tell he's just dropped off. Having the ability to separate in man coverage is going to be huge for this organization. Curtis Samuel's a tricky one because can you count him to be healthy? I mean, like you say, towards the end of the season when he was back and fully fit, he looked like a good addition and he could stretch the field, but I don't feel like I can depend on him. A little bit like Joey Bosa, right? If they're on the field and they're healthy, then great. But how much of the time are they going to be like that? I mean, Curtis Samuel's history is one of injury after injury. So my preference is that in this draft, we add somebody as well to complement that room. Ideally, somebody with some good pace who can stretch the field and open it up for the guys underneath. If we have to roll in with what we've got, I'll feel fine about that. I mean, I think we would expect that the tight ends that contribute more than they did as well. I don't know how much more we're going to get out of Dawson Knox. I think we've probably seen his ceiling, but Dalton Kincaid, I think definitely we should be able to see more out of him. So overall, I'm comfortable with it. My preference is we add a guy as well.
Okay.
Think we're ready for the draft. All right, you've put in the legwork, you put in the time. The Bills have taken care of you. It's not like they've got 3 picks in the entire draft. They're swimming with picks, and this is kind of a good time because the Buffalo Bills have done well later in the draft. They have hit some significant home runs in those 4th, 5th, 6th rounds. And, it's debatable. They're 1st and 2nd round picks, but they've got a lot going forward. And what are you seeing? What are you thinking if they don't do anything? Who do you see the Bills taking? Position and player?
So, I mean, like you say, it's a lot of picks. I absolutely don't think that Breen's going to make 10 picks. There isn't 10 rookie spots going to be available on this roster. I think 6 or 7 would be perfect. There are 4 positions I think we definitely need to draft for. Edge we've spoken about. Cornerback, we don't have a cornerback 2 right now. Dane Jackson, I think, sets the floor, but he is he's backup into my mind. We're not going to want him starting. We need a defensive tackle. And then the 4th kind of position that I'm keen on is adding at some point in the draft, I really late as wide receiver. So those are the 4 big ones. I also think that there's potential we draft a linebacker, given the Matt Milano pay cut and reduction of the contract length. It seems pretty clear he's got 1 more year left. They're not going to add a body to that room, just so he's got a year of developmental time. Do we persist with Dawson Knox for another 2 years, maybe not. I could imagine them adding a tight end maybe later on. But the four big positions that I feel like we have to hit are edge, cornerback, wide receiver, and defensive tackle.
I would agree.
In terms of the way this draft plays out, there is plenty of defensive tackle depth, but there's not that much one tech depth. So the guys to look out for in the first round are Kenneth Grant, Walter Nolan, and Tyleik Williams. Those are the three guys that I think could take a role for us there. My preference out of those three is Kenneth Grant. I really like him. There's a good chance he would be available at 30 for us as well. Would the Bills draft a one tech at 30? I don't know. I mean, it's not necessarily a position that they tend to put a high value on. It's been a while since we drafted a one tech, but I think he's somebody who could really add a lot of value to the Bills and break down that space, good against the run, disruptive against the pass. He's to me my perfect pick of that position. If we go edge, there's a couple of guys that are really going to be gone before, we're picking, Abdul Carter is the class of the field, but he's going to be long gone. He'll be a top 5, maybe top 10 pick. But there's a couple of guys available later on. Donovan Ezra is a guy to look out for. I think he's ranked as a high second round pick. I actually have him sort of more graded towards the end of the first round. I think he could be really good for us. Josiah Stewart, interesting player. It's worth taking a look at his film. He's kind of a pass rush only guy. And Braden Swinston may be available later on. There's plenty of options there. And there's some really good developmental guys that I think, even though that they'll be available in the end of the first, early second, there's a lot of upside to come. They might not be the guys that Bills traditionally go for in terms of that edge setting, bigger bodied guy. But if you want a pure pass rushers, there's a few guys there that I think would be great. Cornerback's a struggle because I think it's unlikely that we go early in corner. There's a lot of talk about Trey Amos. Again, he's somebody who could be available at 30. I think we'd have to trade up if we want him, probably. I think the mocks that I'm seeing, he's going a little earlier. There's a couple of guys in the second round, people like Maxwell Hairston, Benjamin Morrison. I wouldn't mind, but maybe the value's a little bit later on. There's a guy called Darian Porter who I quite like, who might be available in the third or the fourth round. So I think, knowing the Bills and how they managed to find real talent later on in the draft and cornerback, I don't know if that's going to be the position that they go for early. And then we got wide receiver. If Emeka Ibuka or Matthew Golden is available for us, I would love them to take them. I think both of them are going to be long gone by the time they get to 30. So the players that I like later on, there's a couple of guys that I'm kind of keen on. One is Jalen Royals, and the other one is Isaiah Bond. So Isaiah Bond's a little shorter, but he's a quick guy. He's basically like a Curtis Samuel, but I really like him. He's coming out of Texas. So those are the sort of names that I'd advise people to take a look at. I mean, it's possible that they draft a safety and they decide to go for a difference maker. If someone like Malachi Starks or Xavier Watts or Nick Emmanwori is available for them late first, early second, then I think that they might be tempted. But I don't know. I think like we have to plug those defensive line holes, and so edge and defensive tackle are my preferences if we stick at 30
in preparation,
or even if we go.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, if we decide to trade up, then I think it opens up other options. It's going to be really hard to pass on an Emeka Ibuka or Matthew Golden if they're available, because they've both got potential to be wide receiver one. They may not be that first year in the NFL, but they both got that upside, and they're really talented players. Neither perfect, but very, very attractive wide receivers that could be that long-term solution. So it's going to be hard to pass on those guys if they're available.
Yes, you kind of jumped the gun just a little bit with my follow-up question. You talked to let off with, hey, the Bills aren't going to make all these picks. They have some draft capital. Their first overall pick, they got 2 second-round picks. Is there anybody going in the opposite direction? Is there anybody ahead that's, whether we're looking at these mock drafts, that you would want that you're eyeing right now to possibly trade up and grab? He's not going to fall to 30. He's probably going to go anywhere between 15 and 20. But, man, he's a Buffalo Bill, and I'm willing to kick in an extra 2 for this. Is there anybody on your radar for that?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, firstly, I think there will be teams willing to be trading down, right? Because for you to go trade up, you got to find teams that are going to trade down. And I think in this draft, it's actually missing a little bit of first round talent compared to previous ones. And so I think there'll be teams in that second half of the first round that I think will trade down. But yeah, I mean, there are guys. I mean, if let me say, if Emeka Ibuka was available, I would go get him. I think he's really outstanding. I think Kenneth Grant and Walter Nolan are both going to be around available in the late 20s. So I wouldn't be pushing to trade up for those guys. I think traditionally defensive tackles, if they're going to go early, it's 3 techs, and that's not really what we need. Malachi Starks is really tempting. I mean, he's a great prospect, and if he was available at sort of mid-20s, then he's a safety. He could really be that solution for the Bills for a decade or so. So he'd be super tempting. I actually think in the first round, I'd rather we kind of let it come to us and see who was available. The temptation for me would be actually to trade up in the second round, because we got those 2 second round picks, but they're both towards the end, and the quality in this draft is kind of in like that middle to the sort of the end of the second to the first of the second. It's really a middle, like a middle heavy draft. I think the second round is where a lot of the talent's going to be. So actually, I would probably not trade up unless there was, one of those names I've just been mentioning, and instead look to trade up into the top of the second.
Right.
With some of that, because we've got a couple of fourths as well, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Fourth, boatload of fifths, too. Yeah.
Right.
I was doing some research prior to coming on and talking with you, because I know you're going to be hitting up the draft, and I was, just for my own interest, looking at the mock drafts. I looked at 4 or 5 of them, and I believe of the 5, 4 of them had actually selected the Buffalo Bills taking Kenneth Grant. So they're leading towards, at least the brain trust beyond Buffalo is leading towards a defensive tackle or someone in the front 4 to kind of give Buffalo that little push. At least that's the mindset. The Bills have a tendency of kind of going off the road a little bit, but would you be comfortable with a Kenneth Grant pick?
I would.
Would you be all right with that?
Only if he falls to you at 30, or if you got to go up a little bit to get him?
I think if he falls to me at 30 or a small trade up, I'm okay with. But I think he's going to be available then, simply because I think some of the 3 techs are going to be the DTs that go early. I mean, I did a little sort of thought exercise. I like to play around with mocks from time to time just to see what this draft capital really equates to. We do have 10 picks, but a lot of them are in the later rounds, so not worth very much, right? So what could you do with that? I was like, okay, little thought exercise. Let's try and make a few picks, but let's just use everything we can to get the best talent out there and trade up wherever we can. I got Ibuka at 30. I got Kenneth Grant. I got Andrew Makuba, who's a safety out of Texas, and Josiah Stewart, who's an edge rusher I really like. I made just 4 picks. And I was like, all right, would I be happy with this? And I have to say I'd be delighted. So, trade up, you use as much of that draft capital, get as high as you can. But I don't know if trading up in the first is necessarily the answer in this particular draft. I think that the talent's more that end of the first, top of the second. We can let a player fall to us. Because if it's not Walter Grant, Walter Nolan. Sorry, if it's not Kenneth Grant, Walter Nolan might be available, and he's also really good. So I think there's going to be good answers for us at DT if that's the direction we go in that first round.
So we have options. We definitely have options. And that's the thing about the NFL draft compared to other leagues. There's a pool, just a deep pool of talent. In certain sports, I mean, the top 3 here, hockey, basketball, and baseball, after your 2 rounds, you're done. That's it. It's over. Right. I mean, you might as well hit the lottery if you get a 3rd round pick. But the NFL, you routinely see 3rd, 4th, 5th round players contributing. And that's the greatest thing, I think, of having 10 picks, is you've got that luxury to move them around if you want. And I like your idea. I do. I like to, if I can move up, select 5 players out of the 10, but I put myself in a position to get the 5 best players I possibly can get, quality versus quantity. I'm all on board with that.
The other interesting thing is we don't have a 3rd, right?
Correct.
And I think there's going to be, if I look at where the quality is of this draft, it's really heavily in the 2nd. There's going to be people that fall from the 2nd into the 3rd, just because there's a lot of players that I would say have a 2nd round kind of grade on them. And I think a trade up, take those 2 4s, get into the 3rd is a very realistic possibility, because there'll be people there that have fallen to a really great round 2 talents that fall towards the bottom of the third that we'll be able to pick up at good value. And I would rather do that than wait until, into the 4th round picks if we got that choice. Tricky thing, as an outsider, you never really know what options Brandon Bean has and which ones he takes, right? So we can't really judge. He's got to find people that want to do that business, but just looking at it from an academic standpoint, that's where I think there's a lot of value in the 2nd and 3rd round. Day 2 is going to be fireworks. I think
a lot
worth tuning in for.
I think a lot of Bills fans are wondering quietly, do you think there is a scenario in Brandon Bean's mind where he trades once again out of the 1st round? You said there's a lot of talent, right?
Yeah,
there's a lot of talent in the 2nd round.
I think there's actually a really better than even chance of that, because the weird thing about this 1st round is nobody really knows what's going to happen with quarterbacks, right? So normally you've got 3, 4, 5 guys that you think, well, these guys are definitely going in the 1st round. Nobody knows. And there's a lot of depth at offensive tackle, which is another position that we need to draft for. If we see more quarterbacks go than we expect, and I think there's from what I've read, maybe 5 guys at offensive tackle that are rated 1st round prospects. It takes a lot of the positions off the board. There is a good chance to trade down just a few spaces into the top of the 2nd and get the player that we wanted anyway. When we pick up a late 3rd or something as part of that. I really think that's a realistic possibility. I think it's much more likely than us trading up in this particular draft.
I heard from a couple local guys here that Kenneth Grant's draft stock could increase depending on his pro day performance. That he hasn't had a pro day yet, and people are waiting to see what he does there, I guess, if at all.
Yeah, I mean, he's just an archetypal one tech in my mind. So he's big, he's powerful, but he can deal with the run. He anchors really well. What I love about him is he's just one of those relentless, high effort guys that you just know Sean McDermott's going to fall in love with. But he's got the ability to get in the backfield. He's got that ability to disrupt the passer as well. And if you can get a guy that can anchor against the run, soak up double teams, as well as disrupting in the passing game, that's a rare skill set for one technique. Now, he's not perfect, and his hand placement's a little patchy from time to time. I think he's going to be a guy that gets better through the 1st year and into the 2nd. That's probably when we'll start to see the best of him. But if we can get him, I think that he's a game changer for our defensive line. I really do. I think we're going to see way more out of the other guys. So I'm excited about him. I try not to fall in love with a player, because when they don't go your way, and which is more than likely, then it sort of it puts a dampener on things. But right behind him, there's a guy called Walter Nolan, he's a little lighter, but he anchors really, really well. He's way more agile than you'd expect. He gets off the line quickly, and he can play one tech. So if they want a more, positionless guy, I think Walter Nolan's definitely in play as well. PFF have those 2 guys graded as 14th and 16th, I think, on their board. But in every mock, I'm seeing these guys are falling to the bottom of the 1st, just because of the weight of what other teams need, right?
Does Kenneth Grant remind you of any previous Buffalo Bills one-tech players we've ever had?
I don't know if he does.
Okay.
You guys might be better suited to say that than me, simply because there was a period of time between my teenage years and my last decade when I couldn't watch the games as much as I would have liked, because it just wasn't available to me. The Bills were not good; they weren't being shown on British TV. It was only since we got the equivalent of Sunday Ticket that I could watch every game. And so you might have a better idea than I do, but no, not that springs to mind. Not that springs to mind. He's certainly not in recent history.
So not like
he's
a Darius?
340 pounds, right? I mean, he's big.
What about Darius?
House Ballard.
He was a lineman.
Yeah.
What was his name? The guy, Darius, that we ended up giving to Jacksonville. He was here for a short stint. He didn't play too well.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to go back and have a look.
Yeah.
It doesn't spring to mind.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways. Do you think, because I have this written down, what do you think about Cook and his $15 million? Do you think the Bills will counter that, try to keep him? Do they use him as trade bait later on? Do they draft a running back and say, hey, bud, running backs are kind of dime a dozen?
Yeah, and I like James Cook. I thought he improved every year he's been a Bill, and I thought last year he was superb in terms of that. He would just make get an extra yard every single play. But I wonder how much the Bills believe that extra production was really on this fantastic offensive line that we had.
Yes.
Best offensive line in Josh Allen's career.
Yep.
It was an opening up gaps. It was moving people. But the scheme was really good. Especially when they got the tackles out in space and Cook could go in behind them. I think the Bills are anti-paying running backs unless it's a real superstar, a Derrick Henry, a Christian McCaffrey, someone of that level. I just don't know if that's in their DNA. I actually was really encouraged by what I saw of Ray Davis when he played.
Yeah.
My best guess right now is I think they keep him for another year. They don't use them as trade bait, although, would I be against if they did? It depends on what we get in return, right? Yep. But I think they'll let him play out that last year of his career. They'll wish him well. He's going to be competing for his next contract, be that with Buffalo or anywhere else. So I don't expect any drop off in performance from James Cook. He wants to get paid. Well, the best way to get paid, James, is go and put another season out like you just did, or even better. Go get your money. I don't think the Bills are going to pay him $15 million though, because I just think that the difference. Could you get 80% of his production with a rookie? Ty Johnson and Ray Davis with this offensive line, probably, and it's going to be a fraction of the price. So it's opportunity cost, right? Why can you afford to spend that $15 million? Is he worth it? I don't know. If you look at the market, it's a bit of a weird running back market. You've got the guys who are getting paid serious cash, but I just don't think he's at that same level as those top three dudes that are out there. So I wouldn't pay him. I think you can go and get running back production. I think he's been fantastic with the Bills, and I think he's a good guy, but I think he's going to play himself out of Buffalo.
My only negative with him is that he is a two-down back.
Yeah.
Like, he's not the workhorse guy like you mentioned before,
right.
McCaffrey and Derrick Henry and who's another? Like Saquon. Josh Jacobs or Saquon,
right.
And he seems to drop the ball at the worst time.
he did recover a little bit.
I think he cleaned it up a little bit last year, but yeah, you're right. I mean, it's hard to be confident in his hands. It's only the year before he was struggling. There's a guy, if we draft a running back, the guy to look out for who might be available in the 4th or 5th round is a guy called Damian Martinez. Take a look at him. An interesting sort of day 3 possibility. Bigger body guy, a bit of a bulldozer, but I really like him, and I think there's a good chance we do draft a running back in the later rounds, and he might be available. Another guy you might want to look at, very different body shape, would be Bayshore Tootin from Virginia Tech, a smaller guy. But yeah, two interesting names, so if anybody's interested, go and take a look at. Should be available day 3, and I think they've got some good upside for us.
Where does the first running back play college ball?
Damian Martinez, good question. Let me, deep into drafts. So I think I'm into 70 prospects now, and sometimes he's Miami. Yeah, Damian Martinez out of Miami.
Okay,
6 foot, 232 pounds, big, powerful, but great vision, great balance. He can catch. He's got that burst. He's not a sort of high-end twitch athlete, but he's slippery. He finds gaps. And he's not as fast as the edge. He's not this sort of long speed guy, but I think as a really productive 3-down back, he would be a really useful addition to that room. As I'm super high on Ty Johnson and Ray Davis, honestly. I think that they can develop into very, even bigger roles than we've seen recently.
Well, right, and like we said, their offensive line has been very strong, and if you keep adding wide receivers and you have Josh Allen, running backs can kind of just pick up a guy off the street, so to speak, and plug him in, and it's not, he's not like the savior because you don't have anything else.
You can't pay everybody, right?
No,
and I'd rather pay offensive linemen who are going to be involved every snap. They're going to make both your pass and your run game better than pay a running back when I can just go and get another one.
Right. Who do you like for safeties? I see this name in front of me a couple times. Nick Emenworry.
Yeah, he's a good player. I like him a lot.
He looks like a massive.
There's 3 real standouts.
Kid.
Nick Emenworry is definitely somebody I would consider. I think he's a high second round kind of guy. There's a couple of dudes, Malachi Starks and Xavier Watts, I think are probably going to go in the first. There's a possibility they'll fall and be available for the Bills at 30. If we draft a safety at 30, I'd be surprised, just simply because we just don't typically I mean, we put a second round into that position last year. I think they're going to want to see what they have there. But it's not a great safety draft in terms of depth. If someone like an Andrew Makuba might drop into the fourth round, I'd be very tempted to pick up him. There's a guy called Kevin Winston Jr. Also I really like, but I think there's a couple of guys who are kind of first round talents in Starks and Watts. Eamon Worry, I think, would be a great addition. And then later on, as I said, I think you got Winston or Makuba. But the issue I have is that I think we have other needs in those places. I just think that we have bigger needs, and I think if we can fix the defensive line, that's going to buy time for the safety tandem to kind of develop and hopefully settle into something a little bit better than what we saw last year. But yeah, I mean, those are the guys, but I'm not optimistic that they'll be Bills.
Right. I mean, this guy's listed at 6'3", 220, runs a 4.38 40, Sean. 43-inch vertical.
Yeah.
It's a freak.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, some people have him top 10. He might go top 10, but the thing, safety positions, they're not always drafted super high, right? I mean, This is the thing. I have him as sort of a mid-first round grade on him, but he's super bright, and I think he would really develop under Sean McDermott.
This one mock I'm looking at, they got him going 24th to the Vikings.
Right, and I've had some where he drops as far as 30. So I really don't. This first round is going to be wild, honestly, guys, because there are not that many top blue chip tier players. So you're going to see people reaching for players. You're going to see teams trying to trade down. I think anybody that tells you how that first round is going to play out, they have no clue. It's going to be so different, so difficult to tell. So I think there's a lot of these guys, you just don't know if they're going to be available. But he's a good guy who could genuinely be a difference maker. Interestingly, his testing wasn't great, but his drills were really, really good. But he's super athletic. Yeah, he makes plays. He's very quick to the ball, great instincts, super bright player. I like him a lot. But if he's not available, Xavier Watts might be at Notre Dame. He's really aggressive, super tenacious, great playmaker. He's again very athletic. He's played a lot of free safety at Notre Dame, and I think that's the kind of skill set I'd be looking to add to that room if we can. I don't think we've really replaced Micah Hyde.
Is he a second round?
But again,
Is he second round? Watts?
I mean, some people have him ranked as sort of mid-second round talent. I have him actually more of an end of the first round. I'm pretty high on him. But again, there's a difference between ability and what actually gets drafted, right? So I think there's a really good chance that Watts would drop into the first half of the second round and would be available for us if we wanted to trade up. So that's the issue, right? Remember, we've got that gap between our 30 and our 2 second round picks that are both at the end. And I think that talent's going to be in that middle to the top area of the second, and I think trading up there is going to be very tempting for Brandon Bean.
How much film have you watched on game film on Eamon Worry? Is he like seeing these stats on him? Is he like a young Cam Chancellor?
I've watched a good amount of him. I like him a lot. He's really quick. I think his 40 was 4.38. He's really athletic. He's got that range to play all over the secondary. He's big. He's only 6'3", 227. I mean, he can literally play anywhere. He can play box safety. He's great in run defense. He's a good. He probably could be a bit more consistent as a tackler and maybe take better angles, but that comes with experience. But he tested very, very well. Some guys have him drafted in the end of the first. I think PFF have him ranked in the sort of middle of the second, but I think he's better than that. I think he doesn't drop further than top of the second, in my opinion. But I really like him. I think he's a really outstanding prospect.
Sort of off topic a little bit, just a hair. Every mock draft is always all over the place, but one of the consistent things is who's going first overall. How good of a quarterback is Cameron Ward going to be in your eyes? Is he going to be, an Allen, Mahomes, or is he going to kind of fall back to the pack a little bit, maybe a second or third tier? What if you could predict this guy's future? How good of a quarterback is he going to be?
I think he's easily the best quarterback in this draft. But he probably... it's difficult to tell, right? Because I think with quarterbacks, it's just much about the environment they go into as it is their skill set and their ability. you see this time and time again that, the first pick isn't always turn out to be the best player. So I think the intangibles are really important with quarterbacks. How hard they work, how smart are they, and then what environment is the team that they're drafting into going to put around them. I think there's a very good chance that Cam Ward goes first overall. But I mean, does anybody have any confidence in the Titans organization right now?
Right.
We've seen the Jets ruin quarterback after quarterback after quarterback, which has been fantastic entertainment, right?
Yeah.
But it hasn't mattered who it's been. Sam Darnold was, he's talent coming out of college, right? And you put a bad offensive line around him and not much talent, and you have bad coaching, and then suddenly the guy's jumps from team to team to team. I think the first year of a rookie contract is so important. So I think Cam Ward, to me, I think he'll be, my guess is he'll be a perfectly acceptable NFL level quarterback, but he's not going to be a top tier guy. And as you said, he's going to come back to the pack a little bit. Does he have the traits that could turn him into something a little bit better? Yeah, I think he does. But I'm skeptical, honestly. I mean, we've seen so many busted flushes from first picks over the years. And people are always very high on the first quarterback that comes out. But when was the last time the first quarterback that got drafted actually fulfilled their potential? I mean, Josh Allen. Look at the three guys that are top of tier right now. It's Allen, it's Mahomes, and it's Lamar Jackson. None of them were first picks.
Right.
So I guess you're looking at Joe Burrow, who's the last guy that sort of, you'd say, is fulfilling his potential. Trevor Lawrence, not filling his potential. So I just think that you've got to give him time. You've got to put a good environment around them, and then you'll see.
Excuse me. Do you think the Bills are done making any more moves before the draft, or do you think they got something else up their sleeve?
So, I mean, they can free up the cap space if they need to. I think they could easily get 20, 30 million if they wanted to go on. But I'm skeptical because, I mean, who are you trading for and what kind of price they're coming at?
Right.
The guy that I wanted was Trey Hendrickson. But I think that a friend in Cleveland has probably scuppered that because he goes for 40 million AAV. Then guess what? Trey Hendrickson's contract demand's just gone up. And I don't think the Bills are going to want to pay that kind of money for a guy of his age.
Also,
but from what I heard, they were in on him. They were seriously interested in him. But I don't think the draft capital would have been a problem, but the salary, the going to be the sticking point. So I'm a little skeptical that they make any kind of serious move. I feel like they might, you mentioned it earlier, could they trade James Cook? Yeah, maybe. I don't expect it, but it's a possibility. I think it's one more likely is that there's a guy, in June, post-June first cuts, that they pick up that's perhaps misfit somewhere. When we were through the draft and they find, we're just not happy that we've got that hole filled. But I'm not expecting anything now, really. Nothing major anyway. You might see some back end of the roster guys here and there, but I'm not expecting anything big.
Well, in terms of Trey Hendrickson, maybe the Bengals just don't want him going to the Bills because they think that that's one of their rivals, and you'll end up seeing him, and you don't want him coming back to bite you in the ass. Right. And he's the one guy talent on that defense, right? So they're going to want to, they keep trying to go at fixing that defense and struggle. So why trade away the one gas that you really have? But yeah, I mean, it sounds like they were happy for him to seek a trade, but I just think the financials are not going to work. Not for the Bills anyway. You think Bean would learn from that kind of mindset too? Like, why do I keep trading shit with the Chiefs? It still blows my mind. Blows my mind. So
I think
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say I don't blame him on that Xavier Worthy thing. I mean, that was the Dwayne Carter pick that we picked up, and of course we didn't see too much of him last year. I'm not out on Dwayne Carter. I think he could be a useful rotational piece at 3 tech in time. I think he's got the work ethic. He's got the intelligence to develop. It's hard to judge. You just can't judge after the first year. I don't really blame Bean for that one.
Do you think Solomon's going to come
That's not
around?
why we didn't make the Super Bowl. Let me put it that way.
Do you think Solomon's going to turn into anything?
I like him. He's just a pure pass rusher. I mean, he's not the type of player that the Bills have typically gone for. He's bendy. He's aggressive. He gets in the backfield, but he's not going to be that compression style, bigger bodied defensive end that the Bills have traditionally had. I don't ever think he'd be a starter, but as a edge 5, yeah, I think he has that ability. And we started to see flashes here and there. But I mean, he's young and he's inexperienced, and he was a late round draft pick. But he was a guy that I was high on in the draft last year, and I do think he's got some ability. I just don't think he's going to be a starter, and that shouldn't be our expectation given where he was drafted and his body type.
And what is your prediction with Von Miller? What do you think the Bills are going to do with him?
Well, he's gone, right? I mean, he's cut. So I don't think he's coming back. So, yeah, I don't. Is it possible that he comes back, post June 1st, and we decide we want a little bit of extra gas in the defensive end? I don't think so. I think Von Miller retires. That's my best guess.
You don't think he goes back to Denver for one last hurrah?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm not sure how much we saw he was probably our most productive pass rusher, but he's not a 3-down, every down defensive end. And we're paying him a whole heap of money. He's made his money. I mean, what else has he got to play for now other than a ring? But maybe he finds his way on someone's roster, but I think the most likely he just retires.
Do you think he comes back on any team's coaching staff to work his way into GMing?
Well, that's certainly what he said, that he likes the idea of GM position, and maybe that's what we see is he goes out and maybe in a couple of years he comes back to Buffalo as a sort of somebody who's working his way up that room. I mean, that sounds like that's what he wants. He's an intelligent guy, and he's an interesting sort of businessman, I think. So I could see that. Yeah, I think that's certainly in the realm of possibilities. I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah. Sean, you got something else before I ask one of my last questions?
Charlie, I just have one thing, buddy. And I want to dive back into the draft. You have done your homework, hands down. I'm more excited to watch the draft now because I feel educated from you. Is there one player that's a bridge too far? That, man, he is the perfect Buffalo Bill. However, you know what? He's going to go 15, 20 for sure. There's no way he breaks into the 20s. But my God, if we could find a way to get him, who would that one player be? This is the guy you want, but you got a 99% chance of not getting him.
Well, we're not going to get Abdul Carter.
Okay,
for sure. He's a top 5 to 10 guy. I mean, he's the best pass rusher in this class by some distance, I think. I mean, Mike Green might be available, but I'm less high on him. I mean, Mike Green is, he's got some character concerns in his history, and I think Bills are pretty wary of that kind of stuff. So I think. Actually, this is one of those drafts where you just let that first round come to you, and then you do your work later on to trade back up. But there's not somebody I don't think stands out. What can you imagine? I mean, I just think that the guys that are really, really good, they're going to go first 5, first 10, and that's just going to be a price way too high for the Bills to bear.
All right. Well, hey, I'll say a prayer for Carter. I'll say a prayer on your behalf. All right?
If he's dropping, then it's not medical, I'll tell you.
Right.
Charlie, hopes, fears, dreams for this offseason.
Well, the dreams and always win, right? Super Bowl win. I mean, that's what we all want. Hopes, I think this is going to be a better Bills team than we saw last year. I think that in what was a mini rebuild, the Bills exceeded their expectations. A lot of that was down to Josh Allen. But not Josh Allen necessarily putting on the cape, but using his intelligence and making the most out of the talent that was around him. The big difference for me last year is this offensive line was the best we've seen, and that just opened up everything else for us. So I'm very confident this is going to be a better Bills team. We are going to improve the defense. Just adding bodies, good quality bodies, that defense is going to improve it. We've seen Sean McDermott's been able to coach good defense, and I guess he has some trust in Bobby Babich, so we'll see how that plays out. But I think the biggest hope I have is that the Bills can go for the 1 seed, because I think the case are going to drop off a little bit. I think we saw through the course of last year, you're not going to keep winning one-score games forever. And what are they really doing to add real quality to that roster? You pay Mahomes all this money, and you can just tell that the draft picks haven't really worked out, and I don't know. I think I'm skeptical that KC in a tougher division where the Raiders are getting better, the Chargers are getting better, and the Broncos are getting better, they're going to struggle to get that 1 seed. So that's my hope that we make it. And the fear's the same as always, which is Josh Allen. So some kind of injury which puts him out. I think that's going to ruin the season for us all, isn't it? But I'll touch wood, and we'll continue to pray on that one.
Right.
But I think it's pretty clear. We won our Super Bowl. I think these next 2 years are really in the Bills' window to go for the Super Bowl. But I think if we can get that 1 seed, that would really help. Really help.
I think that would have been a big difference this year.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, because when you look at the injuries we got in the secondary, what do we had? Taylor Rapp was out, I think, and I think we had a cornerback out. I think that would have, I think that would have made a difference for sure.
Speaking of cornerbacks out, nice segue. See ya, Elam.
Yeah,
I wasn't going to bring that up.
It's disappointing though, right?
Poor guy.
I went to see the return of the blue and red last year in Buffalo, and he was by far and away the stand-up player on the field. In preseason, he looked good. I think for Elon, it's mental, right? It's not about the physical traits. It's not about the work ethic. Everything that I hear is he works hard. It's just mental. He hasn't been able to switch from that press man coverage guy to the zone scheme. This is not an easy defense to learn. Everybody says that when they come in, and I think that he was just it was beyond him, and his confidence level took a hit. And I hope he does all right, when he gets out to Dallas, but it's a bust. There's no two ways about it. It was a bust.
Yep.
But you can't hit them all.
Nope. Do you have any questions for us before we let you go?
Well, are you guys going to get to a game this year? I'm going to try and go to a game. Do you guys going to be there in person at any point?
If there's going to be a game, it's probably going to be this one before the new season, the new stadium opens up.
Before we'll never be able to afford to get in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'd love to meet up with you guys. If you do, let me know if you're gonna make a trip, because I don't know if we talked about this, but I'm a co-VP of the London Bills backers, which if anybody is ever passing through London on a Sunday and want to watch the Bills, that's the place to be. We have 120, 130 people turn up every Sunday to watch games.
That's beautiful.
And it's a great community, a real mixture of locals and expats and people passing through. But I mean, we pretty much put on every game, even the ones in the middle of the night now. So, but we're planning to do a London Bills backers trip at some point. So we'll bring a few of us over to see a game, because quite a lot of people want to, see that stadium one more time before they tear it down. Yeah. So,
well, I know you were out here for the Tennessee game, and you messaged me to meet up with you at Resurgent. I forgot what. I remember, me and Sean had something come up or something, then we couldn't.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we did a little meetup. There was about, I think, 10 of us Brits that had come over, and we all know different people in West New York. So we had this little party in Resurgence Brewery. It was actually really nice. So we had a little corner worked out there with our flags up and stuff, and everybody that we knew kind of turned up. So a lot of, people that you would recognize from Western New York Bills Mafia. So people like Joe Miller was there, and Kristen Kimmick was there, and it was great fun. We had a great time, and it was a great trip. That's a Titans game. It was excellent. If actually, I forgot, when I was in New Jersey the week before, I was actually interviewed by a documentary team who were making a movie about Bills Mafia.
Oh,
so I don't know what. Yeah, and I ran into them again in Buffalo, and they were just interviewing random people. So yeah, we were right outside the New York City Bills backers location, and they interviewed us. It was it'd be interesting to see if I make the cut, but. Two Brits, me and a friend of mine were interviewed. It was good fun.
That's very cool.
When we talk to Del Reed next time, we're going to ask him if he got into this documentary at all or not.
Yeah, you'd have to think he would.
Right.
He's an icon of the of the fan base. We actually had Johnny and Bill's Elvis was over at London Bills backers
nice.
A couple of weeks ago. He was traveling through the UK, so he went and had a drink with a friend of mine.
Excellent.
So, yeah. Yeah, actually, if you're interested in our Bills community, there's an athletic article. The New York Times Athletic published an interview with me and a whole range of other people about the London Bills backers. Maybe I can send it over to you guys if you're interested.
Yeah, do that. We'll share it on our Facebook page. So, All right, Charlie. Well, thank you so much. It's been great catching up with you.
Charlie, for London, England, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.
Hey, you're welcome. It's great to chat to you, Bills to you guys, and yeah, go Bills.
All right, go Bills.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
ZaBillsPodcast is a presentation of Kmart Productions, sponsored by MJB Electric and Dudza Chiropractic. Thank you for listening, and if you haven't, please follow, rate, review the show. It helps with the algorithm. ZaBills is executively produced by me, Kyle. Executive sound engineering by yours truly, also me. Fundraising, also by Kyle. All artwork executively produced by Avery and Mark Rochon. What the heck is this? All music and lighting executively produced by Kyle. That's more like it.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Please drive carefully and arrive home safely. Good night.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.